Hello and welcome to the Tifo Football podcast. I'm Joe Devine, and today I'm joined by Ruben Pinder.
Hello.
John McKenzie.
Hi.
And Kaya Kainak.
Hey.
All right, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, fine. Also, Steve's here.
Hello.
Right, what happened today? Loads of things happened, didn't it? Which carbohydrates are the best? We started there. Potatoes, rice, no mention of bread. I think there was some mention of bread.
Oh, was I not in the studio at that point when bread...
Had you left?
I think probably.
Steve left the studio. I think we upset him when we talked about carbohydrates for so long that he did leave for a bit.
Kaya's such an Arsenal fan that he went with rice at the top.
Well, that would have been my second favourite if that was the case.
Oh,
Did you think of that joke just too late an hour ago, and now you want to get it back in again?
Look, I'm a consummate professional. What I do is I get into the headspace of the mixed up time, and I think, well, this would be a good joke for the intro. I'll save it for later.
Well, they tried rice at the base and it just didn't work. So.
I thought you were about to say you get in the headspace of a carb and just sort of like...
Carb, yeah.
See, Ruben's joke was a really good joke.
It was good.
That was how you do it. You just thought of the first thing, and then you were like, right, I'm not thinking about that anymore. I'll just say exactly that. He iterated on your joke.
I don't come up with that unless John says that, though. So.
Sure, but you know.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, nice. Finally recognition.
You're proud to be a baseline foundational influence to
I
other
just
people.
bring out the best in other people around me.
Like
you should
Declan
try
Rice.
it sometime, Joe.
That's true. I do vomit when I'm around you. We also talk about what's it called? Oh, the Club World Cup. And we eventually discuss Liam Delap, sort of, at some point a bit later, and his competition with Nicolas Jackson and Chelsea's massive squad. We critically review the stage show Dear England very late. Came out a long time ago. I can't even remember how we got onto that.
It's still on, by the way. You can see it in Salford at the moment at the time we're recording.
That's how you know it's a successful show, because it's still on in Salford.
Have they incorporated the Euros from last summer into the script, though? Is there a third act?
It is updated. I'm not sure if it goes as far as that, though.
Good Lord.
One waste of time.
There's the separation game. We played that, and Kaya Kainak absolutely nailed it. And then also we talk about how tall people actually are versus how they carry themselves. Is that what we did? We talk about that?
there was sort of a Zoom energy chat.
Oh, how tall people are, not how tall people are.
I'm intrigued to
how
know
tall people are.
If the viewers are surprised at my height. I do think because I'm
surprised at your height.
Yeah, and you see me every week.
I look at you in the face.
But I'm 70% leg and 30% upper body, though, so that is quite confusing when I'm sat down.
Should get people to sort of guess the heights in the comments and then sort of see if it's real as it goes on the show or not.
You know, there's in this very long fantasy series of books I'm reading, The Wheel of Time. Are you familiar with this series?
No.
Amazon have been making it into a TV show. It's fucking rubbish. But the books are also rubbish. But to be fair to Amazon,
They've done everything that was
they did
required.
everything they could. I'm on book 10 of 14, right?
Blimey.
And there are some evil characters. There's an evil type of thing in it called a murdrel, which is it's a bad evil thing. And they are said to, when they turn sideways, they sort of catch a shadow and then they slither across the shadow. You know, like that's how they travel between places. And that's sort of like you, isn't it? You're like 70% leg, 30% upper body. Yeah. But if you turn sideways, you could sort of catch a shadow.
I am two-dimensional. Yeah.
You could
I do disappear.
off.
Yeah.
You murdrel.
Yeah.
You murdrel. Anyway, what else happens? At the end we talk about what other jobs would football managers do if they weren't football managers, based on the story of Luke Williams working in Bristol City Airport. So there we go. That was the show. Did I miss anything, Steve?
That's good. Yeah.
Great. Hope you enjoy it and have a great time. And we'll be back next week. It sounds like I'm saying it's the end now, but it's the end for me.
Yes.
But it's the beginning for you. We were arguing before the podcast started, getting to all the important things first. And this is important. This is also an old meme. So if you want to understand how old we are, you know, in the generations, how much our finger is on the button. This is the sort of thing that, like, I feel like a breakfast news show on a mainstream channel would do. It's like 6 months, a year after people were talking about this. Is kids online are talking about this thing. But John just raised, we were arguing about potatoes and the relevance of potatoes and how important potatoes are and whether potatoes are indeed a main part of a meal or not. John said something that was that really upset me. And then he said, what we should rank the 4 main carbs. Someone did I can't remember if this was just on social or if this was originated on Reddit, but I remember it coming up like a year ago. It became a bit of a trend. Can you rank in order rice, potatoes, bread and pasta from best to worst? So I think I'm just now curious to know what yours would be, because I do feel as though it does tell you something about the person.
It's a window to the soul, isn't it?
It might not be a window to the soul, but it's at least a window to the glutton.
I know which one is bottom.
Yeah, we all know which one's bottom.
Rice.
Yeah,
No.
but that's only because we're from the West.
Yeah, no, of course.
You're
Rice
from
rice is much higher
for me.
on
It's
my
top.
That's because you're
Yeah.
from Turkey.
Yeah.
But that's because you're from Turkey.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
This like the rice thing is just pure geography.
Yeah.
Like, I swear, if you
I'm from Bradford, and I'd put rice at the top. I think.
yeah, but you're an anomaly. You're an anomaly. I don't know. You're really putting rice above potatoes.
Potatoes bottom for me, I think.
Bottom.
Whoa.
This is the kind of thing I'm talking about.
I managed to rattle you before we even sound checked today, which was.
But it's a serious question now, and I'm not actually joking anymore. Are you putting potatoes bottom just to upset me?
No,
you actually are putting them bottom.
I will often avoid getting if I ever order, for example, Five Guys, I will just get a burger. I won't get fries.
Yeah, but
Do you not
potatoes
like
come in
chips?
all different shapes and sizes. You don't have to like fries.
That's
like
just
potatoes.
that was just a mere example.
Oh, right,
of
so
one
give me another
instance.
example
But
of where you'll hold the potato.
It's the most versatile one on the list.
It is quite
Yeah.
versatile.
Five Guys give too many chips as well. It's
I mean,
overwhelming.
and I feel the need to eat them all. But
That's why you get a small
yeah.
portion.
Even
but they're still,
even
Yeah.
still.
and then they're just
All right,
festooned throughout
yeah.
the bag.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
Not Five
months
Guys, though.
later, you're
Yeah.
still finding
Do you
these.
just not like potatoes generally?
Yeah, I find them a lot of effort.
You're
then-
not welcome to my restaurant then. Have I told you about my restaurant idea before? It's all different types of potatoes.
Potato Palace.
It's Potato Palace. You go in and every meal, the main bit of the meal is potatoes. But it's actually a nightmare for the chefs because there's about 100 different types of things that you could have.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
thanks.
go, but I think it's a
You
good
wouldn't
idea.
even if I opened a potato
I mean, I
restaurant.
would go.
You wouldn't go.
Would you not? Would you not serve anything that wasn't potato?
No, the rule is if you don't want potato, you can't
But
eat anything.
obviously, there's like condiments and stuff.
Yeah, but they go along with a potato. Like, if you want to eat anything, I better see you eating a potato. Otherwise, you are straight out.
Okay.
You know?
Beigest buffet of all time.
I do like mashed potato.
But
that's
that's
the
just
form that
that's
I-
potato.
Yeah, that's the only form I tolerate.
I like mashed potato, but find that most places / people mash it too much and turn it into almost liquid, which,
Yeah.
I like to have.
Steve's he's gone.
He's so bored.
He's
Anyway.
literally walked out.
Potatoes, bread, pasta, rice. Yeah.
Yeah. Rice for you, Kai?
Rice, potato, pasta, bread at the bottom.
Rice, potato, pasta, bread. Bread's
Yes.
at the bottom.
Bread's at the bottom. I can live quite happily without bread most days.
You're happy without bread?
I don't need it in my life.
Never eat a
Wow.
pizza again.
Wow.
I suppose, yeah. But I think pizza for me is not top of my
That's
takeaway
fair enough.
lists.
That's
It's,
fair
yeah,
enough.
You could make a potato pizza.
I could,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
I could
there's
use
that.
potato as a base. Also, like I would
Yeah.
be if rice is at the bottom, then like curries are at the bottom as well, and I like curries being quite high. And
true.
you got to think.
But you can
about
eat a
these things.
curry without rice.
You can, but it's an inferior experience. It's better to have a
You
pilau
need
rice
something
next to it.
bready.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Well, I mean, obviously, for me, it's potatoes at the top. Obviously, then bread, obviously, and then pasta, and then rice. Which I feel bad about saying that about rice because I do like rice, but I just don't like it as much as I like.
It's a very Middle England list. Isn't it? Starts with potato, then goes to bread, and it's like
If I could put milk on there, cheese.
butter.
I tell you, he probably has a lot of potatoes.
Oh, he's back. He's come back. Where'd you go?
I just had enough.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So early on.
Who has a lot of potatoes?
Liam Delap. I would guess carbs for a big burly centre
segue,
forward.
sorry.
Jesus Christ. Steering us on. Producer Steve. That's right, Steve. Liam Delap likes potato. You're absolutely right. What did you call him? A farmer's footballer?
Burly
He
centre
did play
forward.
for the Tractor
He
Boys.
did
so
play for the Tractor Boys.
Yeah.
That's true.
My wife's messaging me. What does she want?
Showing off.
Ask her what her,
Look at me, I've got a wine.
ask her what her ranking of the four main carb groups.
She says she's packed all the cutlery. It's all fine. Right.
No more potatoes for a while then.
No more potatoes.
The peeler, the masher.
Yeah.
Okay, what the hell are we talking about? Oh, yes. We're talking about Chelsea as a starting point after the carb conversation.
Red carbs. There we go. That's the segue.
Because as we all know, the what's it called? The Club World Cup is taking place. I knew what it was called. I was intentionally disrespecting it by pretending to forget its name. Chelsea lost their latest, what's it called? Club World Cup game, 3-1 to Brazilian side Flamengo. Very exciting. The Brazilian side were helped in part by another red card for Chelsea.
A red what, Joe? A red carb?
For Chelsea striker Nicolas Jackson. A second red. Although I think they said it was the second red in 4 games, but I think the first of those 4 games was a while ago.
It was like mid-May.
It's one of those stats where it makes it sound like it happened in a week.
The ban still hasn't been completed for that one, So he's missing match day 1 of the Premier League next
against
season.
Crystal Palace.
Wow.
Well, we
Lucky
will see
you.
Liam Delap.
You will face Liam Delap. Well, this is the thing. As it says here, the Senegalese striker will be suspended for Chelsea's first Premier League game of next season, as he's serving the 3rd game of his ban for the red card he got against Newcastle, which was at the end of last year. So the centre of this discussion, I suppose, is it really relates to Nicolas Jackson, Liam Delap. We've had an opportunity now to watch Liam Delap at Chelsea. What kind of player he'll be, at least in the what's it called? Oh, in the club, at least in the Club World Cup. And let me. I've done a lot of talking. I will let other people talk, but I just want to say I disrespect the Club World Cup only because I find it funny that FIFA have tried to make it happen, not because I am aware that there are people from leagues who are supporters of teams in leagues outside Europe who actually enjoy the opportunity.
It's cowardly rowing back. Say
It's
it with your chest.
It's not cowardly rowing back.
Don't say it at all.
I'm simply expanding the range of my opinion to include allowable enjoyment of the Club World Cup from people who enjoy it for
I quite
authentic
enjoy the
reasons.
Club World Cup.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about you. But yeah, go on.
Flamengo, who obviously Chelsea lost to in this game, I did a piece of reporting with some of their fans a few years ago when they won the Copa Libertadores, and a big part of their celebrations in the moment was not just that they'd won the Copa Libertadores, was that they would get to play Liverpool in the Club World Cup that followed that winter in its old format.
Yeah.
So to these South American teams, it has always been a bigger deal.
Well, this is the thing, and the reason I didn't say like it's okay for people from Brazil to like it is because it sounds condescending when I say it like that. But that's what I mean. I mean like people who support teams outside of the Premier League might like it, or outside of the top 5 European leagues seem to enjoy it more, and I can understand why that would be the case.
I think it's just
but equally, I just don't.
Also fair.
Generally fun when you get teams that don't usually play against each other playing against each other.
I would find it really fun if it wasn't happening in June and it wasn't like under the auspices of this sort of real estate battle. You know, I would love it if like once every 4 years, if they just changed what the domestic league was and then mixed all the teams up, and then for the whole season you played against random teams. I'm sure environmentalists wouldn't like it, but I'd enjoy it. You know, that would be more fun to me.
Yeah, and I agree. Like the quality of the football is a little bit variable because of the scheduling issues. Like some teams are midway through their seasons, other teams are in their summer break. In theory, right? Yeah. It's the end of a long season for them, and you know, I am aware of the fact that there's a lot of clubs who are playing, like a lot of the South American teams, for example, have played a lot of games in the last calendar year.
Yeah.
But it definitely makes a difference, like at what point in the cycle you're at as a club, and it's partly the reason why the Brazilian teams have been doing so well so far, which is, I think, great to see. But yeah, it does mean that you get some of these games where the quality is sort of kind of variable, where maybe the matchups aren't as fun as they could be if both teams were like at the top level of their fitness cycles. But
did you watch our video? We made it a few months ago, explaining the Argentinian league system.
I did, yeah.
It's so wild, isn't it? Can you remember it? Can you explain it?
Because
they've
changed
they do it twice in a year, right?
Yeah, so the old rules were that you have what's called an apertura and a clausura.
Yeah.
Correct. So you have you have the first half of the season, basically, and the second half of the season. And it used to be the case that whoever was top at the end of the first half of the season would play whoever was top at the end of the second half of the season. You'd have a playoff, and they'd be determined as the sort of grand champion. But
what did they change it to, Kaya?
I'll be honest, the second I wrote it, it's gone out of my mind. I got so angry writing that script because the research was so hard. I've deleted large portions of it.
They change it quite regularly.
It sounds like a convoluted way of ensuring River play Boca. Do you know what I mean? Or
well, there's part of the rules do suggest that, because I think when they get to relegation, it's not just based over.
That was it, yeah.
Yeah, so like they play the Apertura and then the Clausura, which is like the first half of the season and then the second half of the season, even though it's like 2 complete seasons within one calendar year. One of the teams that gets relegated is the team that had the lowest overall score in those 2 leagues, in those 2 seasons, within one season.
Yeah.
But the other team that gets relegated is the team that has like the worst accumulative record over the last
an average
over the last 3 seasons, and I think that one seems to make it less likely that the big teams go down, even if they have a bad year,
because they've got the previous 2 to kind of bail them out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but then I don't know. I feel like being fans of teams in the Premier League and talking about this is amusing, given that like the Premier League has, without any ruals, it has like the most ironclad way of avoiding any of its big teams going down, which is just millions and millions of pounds.
The Super League,
potentially.
In the Argentine league, if you win one half of the season, then it counts as a league title. So Marcelo Bielsa's got a few league titles, which we were top of the league halfway through.
Apertura.
And I think actually he doesn't have an Apertura. He has a Clausura.
Right. Isn't that's the second half, isn't it?
Yeah. But as in, like, it's kind of interesting that you can, you end up with basically 2 league champions every season.
Man, Arsenal would have won a couple of titles recently, wouldn't they, if we had that?
Yeah,
because they've been top at Christmas twice, haven't they, Kaya?
Yes. It's all about points over the calendar year, as we all know.
That's unfortunate, isn't it?
There is a team called Arsenal in South America, isn't there?
There's a team called Liverpool in Uruguay. I learned that the other day.
Correct. Yeah.
There's a Barcelona in Ecuador as well. Is that true?
I think there's a Barcelona in several places.
Yeah.
There's also an Arsenal in Russia. Arsenal Ufa.
Emmanuel Frimpong played for them, didn't he?
Correct. Yeah. That's the reason.
Remember him?
Yeah.
That sounds like a shorts idea, isn't it?
Yeah. There's a pitching meeting all of a sudden.
Anyway, I guess what was it, Steve? You wanted us to talk about?
At some point, Liam Delap.
Oh yeah, yeah, Liam Delap. I suppose the real question. Let me come to you with this first, Ruben. Who would you start if you were the Chelsea manager? Is it Nicolas Jackson, who actually can't start because he has suspended? I'm stacking the deck. Or is it Liam Delap, who seems like a good player?
Or when you put it like that.
Yeah.
Well, Liam Delap is going to be their first choice number 9, right? Like, they've spent 30 million on him.
Is he? I don't know. Is he?
It feels like he must be, because you don't sign a young striker like that without assuming that they're going to play
Chelsea.
all the time.
But isn't that what they did with Nicolas Jackson?
About.
Well, yeah, but obviously they've had 2 years of Nicolas Jackson, and then they've signed another striker, which implies that they're not completely happy with how he's played in that role. So, and with the amount of games that they're going to have to play, like, they'll both get minutes as the central striker, but I imagine Liam Delap will be preferred generally as the main number 9, and Jackson of course can play out wide. Can I do, just because JJ's not here, can I do a JJ bit?
Yeah, I say, can I imagine, because I'm looking at you, you're sat in his seat today, and I'm thinking as you're talking, I'm like, this is sort of like, if Ruben had said this when JJ was here, JJ would have interrupted, and he would have said, I won't do a Scottish accent because that would be offensive, but imagine I'm doing one. He would have said, but all players now in the best teams, they only play 22, 23 starts. That's what he would have said. And then he would have said, that's what I do in Football Manager, and they don't do that at Aberdeen, but they should,
Yeah, well, Guardiola's teams, that's what he's referencing, isn't it? Yeah, he likes to rotate a lot. Yeah, so well, I mean, that strengthens the point, right? They'll both get a good amount of minutes.
But
Delap will be first choice.
There's a chance that they buy another striker before the end of the window as well.
In which case, maybe he won't be. Why are they going to sign another?
They're doing another one.
Well, they've shown interest in Hugo Ekitike.
They've shown interest.
Joao Pedro as well as another player.
Right. So there's definitely. But this is the
thing. What does
that
that mean to have shown interest?
I don't know.
You know, when you get a LinkedIn notification, it's like so and so looked at your page.
Yeah.
Does that mean that someone has put it to the club that have you been interested in this player, and they're like, well, yes, we've shown interest.
Because I always find that funny because, with scouting and data analysis, what it is today, like there isn't an elite player playing that Chelsea haven't
got,
shown interest in at some point.
They'll have a scout report.
Yeah. Does that mean? Does that? I guess it's more than that. Then, isn't it? It's that they.
I think it's just confirmation that they have like
considered,
inquired into it or something like that. I guess.
I wonder if Mark Guiu is what's the word I'm looking for? Regretting joining Chelsea. Do you know what I mean?
Is Mark Guiu at Chelsea?
Yeah, you know the Barcelona kid. Yeah, the striker. Yeah, he went there. Yeah.
Did he end up going on loan to Ipswich as part of the Delap deal? Because I think they were.
They're thinking about loaning him out for sure.
Yeah.
But this is what Chelsea do, right? They look for market opportunities, right? So it's hard to really know what they consider Liam Delap's role to be.
Do you think they're like the really annoying friend that's like been into Bitcoin quite a lot, and then says things like when you go to the pub with them, they're like, "Yeah, it's just all about market opportunities."
Yeah, the Chelsea approach is kind of interesting. I think one thing that we haven't really talked about with Chelsea from one season to the next is that last season Chelsea could run a youth squad in the Conference League, which solved a huge amount of their problems. This season, they're not going to have that. They're going to obviously have the Champions League. And they'll probably have youngsters who they include in that squad to rotate in and out when needed. But you can't. They literally ran an entirely different first 11 in the particularly in the group stage, league stage games. The league phase. Which, I think makes their life a lot easier. This season now, they've got a ton of players like Mark Guiu who they're going to have to think, well, we're not going to play. If they end up with 4 strikers, potentially, I mean, I guess you could play Nicolas Jackson as left winger, which is where he was playing in Spain. Guiu's not going to get a huge amount of game time, so you sort of have to loan him out, right?
Kiernan Dewsbury Hall last season made 13 appearances in the Premier League, but 15 in the Conference League. There you go.
Great.
Well, this is the interesting thing about Chelsea, right? Because most people build squads to sort of make themselves the best football club they can be.
Yeah.
Whereas with Chelsea, they have a bit more of what they call a portfolio model, which is...
I've got Gary Medell on the brain now.
Played for Cardiff, didn't he?
But the whole idea is that they look for market opportunities. They bring in... I guess the idea is buy low, sell high, right?
Yeah.
Which I think, that works... It works like when you're trading in assets.
Again, thinking if JJ was here, what he would say.
you trade in assets when you trade in assets where you sort of mature their value just by them existing is fine, right? But in football, you have to play your players in order to raise the value of them, right? Which is why they're now in this situation where they have to loan a ton of players out. They have to sell a ton of players. And I think that there comes a point at which, and I think this season is going to be a real sticker for them because they do have the Champions League where it's going to, I think, push that Medell to the breaking point. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, on Liam Delap, I think that's what Steve wanted us to talk about. Is that right, Steve?
Sure.
Yeah, something like that. Actually, just before we do that, Nicolas Jackson, we mentioned earlier, he's got a red card. Do you like a testy striker?
Oh, I thought you'd never ask. Do I like a testy striker?
It sounds painful to me.
Yeah. I don't know where to go with that.
Do you know what?
Whatever he has in his own wardrobe is none of your
business. The singular...
This is in the plan because I realise now, I wrote this yesterday in the WhatsApp group and sent it to Steve, but I didn't mean it as a pun. And now I read it written down. I'm like, a testy striker.
The singular of testes is testis.
Testis?
Yeah.
Really?
So the pun doesn't really work.
I like that.
That's
as a
why
thing,
I'm not
though,
laughing uproariously.
If you were dibbing with someone, you could be like, hey, it's quite fun. That might get cut out though because that was sexually suggestive. And that bit was cut out because something unfortunate and sexually suggestive happened that wasn't appropriate for a podcast which is technically owned by the New York Times. Now, what do you think, Kaya? Do you like a testy striker? Not that. Do you think Liam Delap is their first choice? Assuming they don't buy someone else, because that'd be insane, right? Do you think he's their first choice striker now, or?
Yeah, I think he's good. He's obviously not as testy as Nicolas Jackson, but he is a good striker. I think, yes, he's first choice. I think what John was saying about Nicolas Jackson potentially playing on the left wing is interesting. And I've spoken to a few Chelsea friends of mine who think that could happen and are quite open to that happening. But then, as we were talking about Chelsea stockpiling players, they also want to sign Jamie Gittins and potentially other left wingers. And they've got... I think Quenda coming in next season, they've probably not thought about that as well, who I think will play on the right, but still it's another winger to add to the list. And
because they're letting Sancho go, right? They're paying that money
he's
to
gone
send
back
him
to Man United. Yeah, they've paid to not sign him, which is harsh. But I think Chelsea have lacked an obvious focal point. Well, not a focal point, but an obvious sort of finisher up top for a while. If you ask Chelsea fans, they'll say Nicolas Jackson is quite a good sort of link-up player. He's a decent sort of with all the facilitation stuff. But when it comes to actually putting the ball in the net, to the most sort of football man cliche, he's not the best. He's not on the level. But then there's not many players in world football who are. Liam Delap's an interesting project signing, and it's sort of Chelsea buying young again, which is interesting. But I think the question is how he adapts to playing Chelsea's style, because obviously Ipswich did quite well, but it's just a lot of counter-attack, whereas Chelsea have the ball quite slow in possession. It's going to sort of test his movement up front and how good that is, as opposed to sort of running towards goal, which is what he was doing a lot at Ipswich. But there's a really good interview with Liam Twomey in The Athletic where he sort of says, I did that a lot in City's youth team, so he feels confident being able to do that. And I think that's quite interesting. You forget with Liam Delap, because he's had all these loan spells in the lower leagues, and he's sort of quite a sort of old school English centre forward. You think he's sort of this big rough and ready number 9, but he does have a bit of that Man City sort of, I hate to use the word sort of class, because it sort of sounds bad, but I can't think of another.
He's got Man
word.
City class.
Man City class, sort of silkiness.
They've got a lot
oozing through his
of
veins.
City players now, Chelsea, haven't they?
Yeah,
So,
Palmer, Lavia, others.
there must be more.
Can I say before we move on that in reference to the reporter who covers Chelsea for The Athletic, it's pronounced Liam Toomey. The reason I say this is not just to correct you, but because I said that to him when I first met him as well. I was calling him Liam Twomey because his name is spelled T-W-O.
Yeah.
And I when I first read it, I thought it can't be two. Like the pronounced like the way that you spell the number.
Two me's.
Two me's.
To you.
So, but it is Toomey. So I think that it's a lovely name to mispronounce, because I always think the mispronunciation of that name comes from an obvious consideration. It just so happens to be wrong.
Sorry, Liam. Sorry.
When people make that mistake, they are wrong, but for the right reasons.
I hope there
Do
are
you
a
know
lot
what I mean?
of Chuckle Brothers puns in his
family.
childhood.
Yeah.
Toomey.
In his childhood.
his nickname at school should have been To You.
Yeah,
Whatever.
I know.
Yeah.
It's probably. He seems like a well-adjusted guy, though. You know?
Sounds like Gareth Southgate. He's got the same voice as Gareth Southgate.
He's lovely.
You got a
He
Gareth
is great.
Southgate impression?
I can't do a Gareth Southgate impression.
It's really hard.
It's quite bland, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You probably get this from doing some impressions of people, but like the more normal someone is, the harder it is to nail
100%,
their.
yeah.
Like it's a lot easier when they have a.
Because doing accents is actually caricaturing a lot, right? You
Yeah,
sort of take aspects.
I don't know what you mean, John. What are you saying? From where? I don't understand you. I'm getting in the bath. That's all I ever hear you say.
The guy who played Gareth Southgate in Dear England did a very good Southgate voice.
That's Ray Fiennes' son.
Yeah, really,
his son?
really subtle.
Yeah, what is his name?
Joseph
Yeah,
Fiennes.
Yeah.
that's the one.
I think it's
No,
his
that's his
son.
brother. That's his brother, isn't it, Joseph?
Who played Southgate in Dear England?
He was in Shakespeare in Love, that guy, which was in the 90s. So
It was Joseph Fiennes.
Is that not his brother? Or maybe he's got the same name as his son.
Oh no, it's his brother.
Yeah.
But he nailed it, and it's really subtle.
He's
I don't know.
really good at
Yeah,
that.
he was
Yeah.
excellent.
I thought that was brilliant.
I thought it was terrible.
Did
I got
you?
quite emotional when Saka missed the penalty at the end.
Fucking hell. Yeah, I mean, I did have my head in my hands during the Italy shootout being recreated on stage without a ball. Like, why am I putting myself through this again?
It was so cool how they
But
did that. So
it was
cool.
production-wise very clever.
Oh man, honestly, like
Unbearably cringe to actually watch the whole thing, though.
I didn't find that at all.
Really?
I genuinely, I found it very moving. I thought it was excellent, and obviously each to their own. It's art, it's subjective. But like, as someone who grew up in a pub theatre, watching
yeah.
like dog theatre every week,
Yeah.
and I have a huge appreciation for stagecraft. The way that they retell the story, because you think like the first thing you think when they're going to do a football play is how on earth are they going to recreate the football? It's the thing they get wrong in films all the time.
100%.
And they had this wonderful sort of big circle of screens that the players could stand in the middle of. and there were no real footballs or anything like that. It was all mimed, which
Sound
it
effects,
sounds
yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
It was so effective. You found it cringeworthy.
I think, one, I think you can note that some of the actors had never kicked a ball before.
Sure.
In some of the physical acting.
Well, you can't have everything you want there.
No,
you
of
know.
course not. But
Musical theatre.
I actually thought just the writing and the narrative was a bit condescending.
Really?
Yeah, there was a moment where Gareth Southgate's like, you know, we spend all day training our feet on the pitch, but now we've got to train up here.
He said that in real life.
Okay,
I don't know. I don't know that
he may
did.
well have done. He may well have done.
It's the thought of thing he would
But
have
then,
said.
yeah, but then the next line
Yeah.
is the guy playing Dele Alli
Yeah.
going, well, I haven't really got much of it upstairs, gaffer. And it's like, he's still
Yeah, there was a
doing
bit
the
of
like footballers are dumb
That
joke.
was satirical, though. That was
Of course,
it was supposed to be
they
ironic.
should have given that line to
The
somebody
Harry
else.
Kane caricature is a bit. It's not the best in that as well. Sort of,
Oh,
just
but it's
constantly
but the,
making fun of his voice.
No, but it's deeply ironic. The whole point of the Harry Kane character is that at the end, he it's one of the best bait and switches I've ever seen in theatre, where the production allows everyone to laugh at Harry Kane throughout almost the entire show. Because of how he speaks and how it's funny. And then at the end, the character gets a monologue which makes you feel terrible for laughing. It's perfect. It's like the perfect...
I mean, I've never found it funny to laugh at Harry Kane's voice personally. But
Really? I think it's funny.
I'm just trying to make you feel bad.
I thought, well, anyway, that's the wonderful thing about art, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, is that art's a wonderful
Yeah.
thing.
Also,
I think that's what
yeah,
Tigger said.
I don't think it was for
Gareth
me.
Southgate.
It's for theatre people who have a tangential interest in football, not for football people who have a tangential interest in theatre. That is my...
I sort of agree with what you're saying, but I'm a football person who is also interested in theatre. I loved it. And I actually... one of the reasons I liked it is because I think it was for... it was accessible and it was broad. It was for the public. It wasn't like a. I know you mean when you say theatre people, you mean as opposed to football people as a primary.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want people listening to think you mean like theatre people who just attend the opera and just attend. all
No,
the
my
arts and
family are
stuff.
theatre people.
Sure. Yeah.
I would describe you as a
That's great.
potato person who's tangentially interested in other things.
That is absolutely a fair description of
Yeah.
me. I am a potato person first and foremost. Everything else is secondary, except maybe cheese, which is like 1.5.
But that's sort of the same ballpark, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cheese and potato go together.
I should move to like the Isle of Wight or something because I feel like that's the middle ground between Ireland and France. You know, what do you think is the perfect
Well,
middle?
you could go to the
Do you not
Channel
mean Jersey?
Islands. Yeah,
Jersey.
Jersey or something.
Jersey's off the coast of France.
right,
Might be
and
potatoes.
it's sort of like I reckon Jersey potatoes. Yeah, I should
And
go
milk.
to Jersey.
You said you like milk as well.
yeah, and tax breaks.
Tax rates.
I actually don't like tax breaks. Don't like them. Right, what are we doing? Oh, let's play the separation game, is it? Did we talk enough about Liam Delap for you?
No, but that's not, I don't know. Sorry, I'm a bit cranky today. You guys have the benefit of air conditioning in the
It's
studio.
hot in that little room, isn't it?
But I do not, so I'm getting progressively hotter as we go. But
No
yes,
worries.
separation game, please.
Let's slow down a little bit.
Just going to sip on some ice cool water here.
Don't worry, Steve. In a moment, I'm going to send you to the kitchen, so you'll be able to get out of that room. Okay, Ruben, separation game.
So one of the more enjoyable sights at a Club World Cup has been seeing players that you go, oh, I remember him. He played in the Premier League, didn't he? At one point, it's like watching the Turkish Super League, but in the summer.
Yeah.
The likes of Thiago Silva at Fluminense and
Yeah.
Edinson Cavani at Boca Juniors.
Lovely, lovely players.
Cavani is where we're going to start the separation game today.
Okay.
He's played in Uruguay, Italy, France, Spain, and currently Argentina. And we are going to try and find a route from him to someone who's only ever played in Germany and will play in England next season, in Florian Wirtz.
Florian!
Obviously, he hasn't played a game for Liverpool yet,
So
you
it
can't
doesn't count.
You
Yeah, of
can't
course.
use his Liverpool teammates. So Edinson Cavani to
Okay.
Florian Wirtz.
And you can't use his Liverpool teammates even if you were to assume in the future that they will play together.
Florian Wirtz might break his leg and never play for Liverpool.
That's true.
We don't know.
We just don't know.
And the stipulations are...
I so hope that doesn't happen.
Of course, me too.
Yeah.
I'm just saying we need him to have played a
Yeah.
competitive first-team game before he becomes eligible for a Liverpool link.
Yep, fair enough.
Okay?
All right, great. Well, let's go to a break, and when we come back, hopefully, some of us will have completed the game.
Oh, I think I've done it already.
I think
Yeah.
I've done it.
Oh my God.
fuck's sake.
Okay, we're back, Ruben. There's some contention in the room.
Well, Kai claims to have got it in one, as
Yeah.
do you.
I mean, I didn't get it as quickly as Kai did. He announced to the room that he had it in one, so then I just looked to see where that could possibly be. I won't if it is correct, it's Kaya's.
I have it in 3, which is quite weak.
I have it in 2.
So let's start with John's 2 first, and then we'll see if it can be done quicker.
So Edinson Cavani played with Gabriel Paulista at Valencia,
Gabriele Paulista.
22-23, who played with Xhaka at Arsenal, who played with Florian Wirtz at
Lovely.
Leverkusen.
Very
That's
good.
very nice.
Yeah, I used Xhaka as well, but didn't make the Gabriel connection. So I went Xhaka played with Mkhitaryan at Arsenal, who played with De Gea at United,
Yeah.
who played with Cavani at United.
Cool.
So that's a fun route.
I guess the upside of yours, Kaya, is that even if it isn't 1, technically it would still be a 2 because he will have played with someone who will have played with.
Yes. And
Yeah.
And who is that golden player?
former Crystal Palace loanee Timothy Fosu-Mensah played at Leverkusen with Wirtz and at Manchester United with Cavani.
That's nice.
According to Kaya,
According
they
to-
did play, but they
Yeah.
both
Did he get
had-
on the pitch?
So, according to Wikipedia, which is, I admit, questionable, in 2020-21, Fosu-Mensah made 1 league appearance. That season, Cavani made 26 league appearances.
Lines up. I mean, it makes sense.
So he did.
There you go. Up top for Kaya.
Thank you.
Number uno, and it's a win for the tall side of the table. We were getting a lot of shit earlier, listeners. We were getting a lot of shit for our height because it's a sizist office here with all these smallies
I know,
around.
it's worth putting my chair down for that.
Yeah, that's right. They make us put our chairs lower.
It's rare. It's rare that I'm in the shortest half of the population of a room.
Is it?
Yeah,
I would say
How
that
tall are you?
like 6 foot.
No, you're not. You're 6 foot.
Yeah.
I've no idea how tall anyone
Yeah,
is.
Ruben's deceptively tall. Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah.
I always think Kaya, you're 6'6".
Yeah.
I would describe this side as the tall side.
I'm 6'4".
It's about
That's
here
tall.
across.
How
I
dare
remember
you?
being that
here.
tall. That was fun then.
Do you have this thing as well though, where like you don't know how tall people are if they're shorter than you?
Yeah, it freaks me out.
Would you have known he was 6 foot?
No.
I wouldn't have known you were 6 foot. I
No.
thought you were like the same height as every other normal man.
What, like Chris and Alex?
Like 5'10" or 5'9".
I love that you have this idea that, like, for small people, they have just a perfect knowledge of how tall everyone who's taller than them is.
They do. Everyone's always looking at me saying, "What, you 6'4"?" Like, yeah. I think when you get tall, people have like an estimation of what, like, because there's the first. I think 6'4" is the last like normal
Last
tall
frontier.
tall height, right? 6'4" is the.
I beg your pardon?
No, I believe. Listen, listen, freak. Shut up. Let me say, I think 6'4" is the last acceptable height. After that, 6'5" is just a bit too tall. Anyone that's 6'5", you meet someone, you say they're 6'4", you're like, oh, 6'4", that's nice. 6'5", you're like, 6'5". 6'6" is just garish, man. Come on.
How
That's-
much of this is just because you are 6'4" and it's
lot
some
of
weird
insecurity
sort of
just
eugenics
in that
vibe you've got
It's,
going on? in
it's
your
hard
head?
to know. It's hard to know. What's that, Steve? I didn't know how tall Kaya was when I hired him. No, I didn't.
Yeah, that was
Would
the
I find
people,
him-
Zoom
people do
interviews
have-
really came up clutch.
Yeah,
there.
people do have like weird like Zoom energy. Like a lot of people
Yeah.
have said to me, "Oh, I'm
Kaya's got
surprised you-"
small Zoom energy.
People
That's
think
what
that
you're
I
saying.
should be over 6 foot when they speak to me on Zoom.
Yeah, because you've got a really high account of yourself. Anyway, what are we doing? Oh, yeah, we're just congratulating Kaya on a separation game. Well played. Well done, Kaya.
Crucially, not congratulating me on my height. That is
No,
Yeah.
that's true. We congratulated you for playing well, and then we immediately called you a freak.
I don't think you had much to do with your height. So, whereas with the separation game, I
Drank
think
a lot of milk.
How tall are your parents?
My dad is 6'1" and my mum is 5'11".
Right, yeah, tall mum. Tall. I had a tall mum. I mean, I have a tall mum. She's still tall.
Cool.
A little shorter, though, I think, than she was. You know?
It do be like that.
Do it be like that. Do it. Is that what actually happens?
Yeah,
do people
yeah,
actually
you
get
shrink as
smaller?
you get
you
older.
compress.
You do
Yeah.
compress.
Your-
Because
your
people's
spine
ears
starts to
continue
curve-
to
your
grow, right?
Yeah, your spine starts to curve a bit. The discs aren't. So yeah.
So if you were flat out still, you'd still be the same height. Like, what if you lived your life horizontally? Would you just get thinner?
No.
I think your bones do get smaller, so I think you do start shrinking.
Your bones actually
I think
reduce
so.
in
Is that
size,
right?
or
My-
do you
my
just
dad-
you just compress?
my dad
People
claims
tend
to
to
be
shrink
shorter
as
than
they
he used to
age
be.
due to a combination of factors related to the spine, muscles, and joints.
Yeah.
The spinal discs lose fluid and flatten, muscles weaken, and joints can narrow, all contributing to a gradual loss of height.
Right. Do you know the yellow from the? I don't think we've got a wide. Have we got a wide today, Steve?
We do, yeah.
So the viewers at home can see the yellow Tifo banner on the TV. It's reflecting on John's face and making him look quite a lot like he has jaundice.
And in the
Which I
background as
also
well.
do have, incidentally. But
You were just disguising your jaundice.
They're also the colours of Borussia Dortmund, aren't they, Joe?
That's true. Listen, Steve. How dare you? How dare you insist that I now ask us to discuss Jobe Bellingham's debut at the, what's it called? The Club World Cup. He was at the Club World Cup because he scored a goal, didn't he, for Borussia Dortmund on his debut. Did he score a goal?
he did, yeah.
On his debut.
Second game.
He scored a goal.
Second game.
In his second game.
Yeah.
He scored a goal for Borussia Dortmund.
Deflected.
Wow, very impressive. He's played twice in the competition for Dortmund at the time of recording, scoring in his second appearance. All the information was there for me if I'd just read on. In the 4-3 against the Mamelodi Sundowns. Now, I'm kind of curious. I'll come to you, John, because I told you I was going to ask you this. What kind of player is Jobe Bellingham? Because I made the mistake previously of thinking that Jobe Bellingham was simply the brother of another Bellingham and therefore not as good as everyone thought that he said he might be. Because do you know what I'm saying, right? I thought he must be worse than he appeared because he was related to someone who was good. But maybe he is good and I just don't know.
So you know Rafe Fiennes?
Yeah.
He's got a brother,
No, he doesn't.
yeah, called Joseph.
Has he?
Yeah,
I thought that was his son.
No, he's appeared in some famous theatre productions. You
Right.
know the Gareth Southgate one?
Yeah.
I think you actually went to see that.
Oh, Dear
that was
England.
him, yeah.
He was a Medell.
Yeah, so Rafe Fiennes is a good actor.
Yeah.
So is his brother.
Right.
And-
yeah. But he's not as
But
good
there's
as Rafe Fiennes.
there's similarities between the two, right, in terms of their acting style.
Rafe Fiennes plays for Real Madrid.
That's right.
Joseph Fiennes now plays for Borussia Dortmund.
Having played for Birmingham and,
Yeah.
and Sunderland.
And
Yeah.
Sunderland.
But yeah, and similarities between Jude and Jobe
Right.
are striking, I think. Like when you even just visibly, when you look at them, they look very similar.
They do look
Their
similar.
gait is identical. It's
Yeah,
mad, yeah.
and the thing that stands out about Jude is that, Jobe, I should say, and maybe this was true of Jude, but like it strikes me more with Jobe. But he just looks physically dominating for his age, which is
Right.
crazy. So on the pitch,
'Cause how old is
in that
he?
game?
19?
19, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He was like a head taller than most of the other people on the field, and
Yeah.
like visibly, you just look at him with the wide broadcast camera,
Yeah.
and you're like, this guy's big.
So even within his own age group, he would have been, yeah.
Born in September 2005.
Right. Okay, that is young. And you should, we should, because I remember the last time we talked about Jobe Bellingham, you made a comment about his physicality, and then there were about 3 YouTube comments that essentially didn't accuse you of racism, but said that you were indelicate or something. I actually don't think you were, because I think that those people misunderstood what you meant when you were talking about physicality. So can you clarify that?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, obviously to get to that level, you have to have incredible technicality, and he does have that. But I think, like you said, relative to your age group, if you are able to have that physicality, it accelerates your development, right? And so you get to play more regularly at the highest level, and that's exactly what happened with Jude as well. I think being at Dortmund is going to be great for him, because it's the interesting thing about Jobe is that he was at Sunderland, who got promoted to the Premier League, but he was in a weird position where I think a lot of teams in the Premier League that he would want to move to probably wouldn't take the gamble on him until he'd played somewhere else and proven himself. But then the teams at the bottom of the Premier League probably wouldn't spend whatever it was, 30 odd million on him, and then take the risk that he's going to have the same sort of development as his brother. Whereas I think what we saw is that there was a few clubs in Germany, so Eintracht Frankfurt qualified for the Champions League, so they had a bit more revenue to spend. Dortmund as well. These are clubs where they can spend 30 million on a player like that and then play him with the knowledge that he'll be a regular starter for them. There's less risk attached. So, yeah, I think that's what I'm kind of interested to see, because the reality is that he does have his brother's career sort of hanging over him a little bit.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen, yeah, very very similar kind of profile, plays on the same side.
Yeah.
Does a lot of the same things, and it will be. I think it'll be fun to see him develop as well. See where he ends up.
Kaya, can the Bellingham brothers become the best sibling pairing in current football? Because I can tell you, I assume we all believe that's Iñaki and Nico Williams are currently the best footballing brothers who are both active. Mm-hmm. Other options we have Lucas and Theo Hernandez. There's the Ayew brothers, of course, Jordan and Andre. I didn't know that Gianluigi Donnarumma has a brother, Antonio Donnarumma. Is he also a goalkeeper?
I don't know, but
Right.
Sergei
then
Milinkovic-Savic has a brother who's a goalkeeper.
Oh, really?
Right?
Oh, they're brothers, are they?
Yeah.
And then there's Matty and Sean Longstaff.
There's the Turams as well.
Oh, the Turams?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Kefren.
Marcus and Kefren,
Right.
yeah, two
I
quite
was,
good players.
because I was thinking, like, Lillian Thuram's dad, right? Yeah.
It's not pronounced Two-ram.
It's not a Ray Fiennes, Joseph Fiennes situation. Yeah.
I mean, yes, I guess Jobe and Jude, they could become the best.
They could, yeah. It's a exclusive club. It's sort of going in the legacy of the Nevilles, trying to live up to that is a big thing. Yeah, why not? I'm going to listen to your question and ignore it and answer a question that I want to
Please
answer.
do. That's what everyone does.
And just say that I think Jobe Bellingham was quite an interesting signing for Dortmund because he's sort of a return to what they were doing before. Because everyone thinks of Dortmund, well, a lot of people think of Dortmund and still think of the team who reached the Champions League final under Klopp for a squad that was assembled for less than 50 million, or the squad that provided a platform for Dembele, Aubameyang, Jude Bellingham, Haaland, etc. But they've sort of stopped doing that over the past few years, and they've kind of just been signing the players who had the best season in the Bundesliga, and it's not worked out massively well. Like, they've finished the season quite strong, but they were in quite dire straits quite a long time, and it seems that they've been a club that sort of lost their way a little bit in terms of their identity for a team that was, I think most people know what the Borussia Dortmund identity used to be, and it's not been that for quite some time. So Jobe feels like a sort of a throwback to the kind of signings they used to make, where they would be, we're the platform for you to go and prove yourself in Europe's biggest competitions, and then get yourself a move elsewhere like Jude did and like Haaland, etc., etc. So from that perspective, it's quite an interesting signing, and yeah, I'm intrigued to see how he gets on.
Okay. Antonio Donnarumma is an Italian professional footballer who plays as a goalkeeper for Serie A side Torino. Thanks, Steve.
There's a Palace keeper called Joe Whitworth who has a load of brothers, and they're all keepers.
Really?
I think
Goalkeepers don't count, do they?
that might.
I think they count. Why would they not count?
It's a bit different, isn't it?
I was a goalkeeper. Are you saying I don't count?
I have believed that before I knew that you were a goalkeeper.
One last thing on Dortmund.
What would I have to do to count for you?
Just not eat potato all the time.
Did you notice that Dortmund were wearing their white away kit in this Mamelodi Sundowns game?
Yes, I did watch the game.
You'll notice that it's got a Vodafone sponsor, and all I could think of was, this is Manchester United's away kit from 02-03.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a great kit that was. That was in the
Just
era
white.
where they had they did their, it wasn't their first, but like their famous blue kit as well,
Yeah,
the blue Vodafone one.
Yeah, I think that was the following season. Yeah,
That was great. I liked that
yeah,
kit.
it's quite simple.
It was simple.
White, black trim, lovely.
Not back in the days when Man United used to win things.
I thought back in the days when Vodafone used to sell things, I thought Vodafone were long gone, but apparently not. Are they still? They're still going? Are they Vodafone?
That's a question for Joey in last week's episode. Really.
Let's-
isn't it?
Literally before Jobe Bellingham was born, that.
Really? Yeah,
Quite
of course
scary.
it was. Yeah,
What are Vodafone doing now? I've just
they
asked.
still
selling
they still provide services.
It's currently focused on integrating its recent merger with 3 UK, forming a new entity called Vodafone 3.
How long did that meeting take?
Like, they would have been like, we insist it's called 3 Vodafone!
Just
They
turn
should have
the E at the
Because we
end into
can't
a
say
three.
that. It
Yeah,
sounds like we're making fun
Vodafone
of,
3, yeah.
you know, you can't
They
call, you
missed the
can't
trick
call
there.
anything
Yeah.
three anything, can you?
There is a company called Three though as well. Oh, that's
Well,
the
no,
one.
they're the one that they're
They're the ones that
merging
did
with.
Chelsea.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3.
Yes.
Yeah, 3 UK. So I guess it's the UK part of
Who
3.
also, Joey in last week's episode mentioned that national teams don't have sponsors because
Of
there's
FIFA rules.
Yeah.
FIFA,
The Irish national team, the Republic of Ireland, did have 3 back in the noughties, didn't they? And it
Did
looked
they?
like they were playing 11 left backs.
Right. Yeah.
Don't get them started on squad numbers.
No.
Right. What are we doing next?
Non-football jobs.
Oh yeah, that's right, Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was fun. This is because it was recently reported by The Athletic that former Swansea City manager Luke Williams is currently working at Bristol Airport, helping disabled and limited mobility passengers around the airport terminal. There was a picture that emerged, I think, on social media a few days ago, and people were saying, surely that can't be. Is that Luke Williams, the recently let go Swansea manager? He is still on gardening leave. It is confirmed to be him. He was fired by Swansea in February. So obviously there's no financial need for Luke Williams to work in the airport. Apparently he just wanted to be active rather than simply sitting at home, which is a completely reasonable thing to do.
That's a noble thing to do, I think.
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. There's not many football managers, I think, who would go and do that.
Well, is there?
Are there?
Well, I don't know. Sorry. Well, are there? Is there? Are there? Are there? Because this got me thinking. Whilst there probably isn't, and this does seem like a noble thing to spend your free time doing. It did get me thinking. If football managers weren't football managers, what would their perfect job be? You know. So I'm going to throw some examples to you, and then I'm going to list some names and see how well the room fares, okay? And you're welcome to be involved as well, Steve, but I will warn you, the moment you say one that's wrong, you will be banned from talking any further, okay? Yeah? So make sure when you come in with it, it's a good one. Okay, so for example, here's what I think. I think Big Ange Postecoglou, he would make a great grizzled security guard lead. You know, like for a proper logistic heavy journey of people who had money, not just a random security guard, but someone who was organising the security for an important person travelling. I think he would be good at that. And
with the wire out
of the ear, but also with he has the familiar way. He's the only person that would be allowed to talk to the VIP in like a normal person, because they would respect that he's excellent at his job. That's what I envisage him as, you know. And I also think Tim Sherwood would run a badminton club, because he just seems like the kind of guy who plays badminton. Yeah, sports kind of cheating. It's half cheating, isn't it? Because it's like.
Yeah, it's still in the same realm.
It's still in the same realm.
I've always thought that Thomas Frank gave the kind of wacky artistic teacher. You know, like every school had like an art teacher that wore kind of much jazzier clothes than the rest, or a music teacher who was a bit, you know, these...
With the big collar.
Yeah. These subjects require a bit more eccentricity.
Yeah,
and I think Thomas Frank, maybe it's the long hair and the kind of like tangible enthusiasm that he has.
I enjoyed eccentricity. That's nice.
I think he'd be excellent at selling Teslas, you know, or like quite a high spec car, something that like would required a bit more, you know how to be a top salesman.
I think Ruben Amorim is an architect.
That's interesting.
A
Why do you say that?
conceptual architect.
A conceptual. What, he doesn't actually dig.
No, as in like, you know,
That's
like
an
Frank.
archaeologist.
Like Frank.
Oh yeah. He doesn't actually build.
A conceptual archaeologist.
I was like, when you said architect,
I wonder what's down there.
it's like Indiana Jones. Do I see Ruben Amorim as Indiana Jones?
An architect.
An architect.
I think, you know, like Frank Lloyd Wright or someone who's
that?
who is doing like really high.
Nobody knows names of architects.
Oh, yeah.
What does Frank Lloyd Jones do?
Right.
He writes.
Architect.
Who? Frank Lloyd Wright. What does he do?
He was an famous architect.
No, I know that. What does he build? For God's sake.
He designs things. He doesn't build anything. But
What's
he's
his
got
most
a
famous building?
I don't know.
I think it was the Pedantry Towers.
He made this famous. He did this famous like house in the woods. Frank Lloyd Wright.
My dad's an architect.
What's his most famous building?
He did the Nando's in Camden.
Really?
Yeah. He's very proud of the toilets in there.
Well, so, I mean, he's a populist architect, that guy.
If ever you go in there, then...
He's proud of the toilets, is he?
Apparently they're very functional, so...
The toilets function?
Apparently so.
It's very important news, the Camden Nando's toilets function, because they will be needed, I think.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. Frank Lloyd Wright, architect. Oh, Frank Lloyd Wright Sr., an American architect, designer, writer, and educator. He designed more than 1,000 structures over a creative period of 70 years. How about that? What did he design? Let's look at these. There's some houses. There's some more houses. There's a lot of houses in the woods and stuff. Oh, there's the Guggenheim. Did he make the Guggenheim?
Potentially.
Potatoes? Potatoes.
Who is your favourite architect? Everyone has to have a favourite architect.
Who's my favourite architect? Well, it's funny you asked that. It's actually Frank Lloyd Wright.
Yeah, I thought so.
He's one of my favourites because he designed the Guggenheim, and I know what that is.
My dad now in the mud.
Oh, it's Kaya's dad.
Wow.
What the hell, man?
I'm a vegetarian. I've never been to the Nando's in Camden.
I've never
Has he built any vegetarian restaurants?
I don't know.
Then I'm not interested.
Yeah, apologies.
Who was the bloke who built all the football stadiums that we spoke about a few weeks ago?
Archibald Leach.
Archibald, he's my favourite.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I like Giles Gilbert Scott. He did Battersea Power Station.
Right, that's a good one. I like that.
And then he designed a few other things like it. The University Library in Cambridge actually designed the the red telephone box, which is why it's very similar stylistically to Battersea Power Station. Some of the fittings it originally had. So,
Right.
yeah, good fun. His dad was also famous, George Gilbert Scott. He designed Liverpool Cathedral, the Anglican one.
What about Marcelo Bielsa?
An architect of
Another conceptual architect.
Of models.
Football, of models.
A lot of these managers are such intense personalities because they have to be. It's hard
Yeah.
to imagine them working in a normal job and
Hard
not
to imagine what they would do.
pissing everybody off. Do you know
I
what
think
mean? Like, they'd
Marcelo
be so-
Bielsa could be a bit like Kafka was a postman. I think Marcelo Bielsa might have to be something like a postman, but he would be so efficient on his routes.
or a butcher.
Or a butcher, yeah, with like the finest cuts, Or maybe they weren't fine, but they were all exactly the same size. Do you know what I'm saying?
Eddie Howe would be a Lib Dem MP. He's always reminded me a little bit of Zach Goldsmith. Like he looks a bit like him. Like every time he's on, I know he wears tracksuits, but if he wears a suit, you just go centre right politician.
Isn't Zach Goldsmith a Tory?
Yeah.
Yeah, famous Tory.
Yeah.
But philosophically, potentially similar. to
Good lord.
anger everyone.
Rafa Benitez?
Waiter
nice.
is the sort of the
That
joke
was-
Do you remember-
when it
do you
comes to
remember
him.
Toy
That's a
Story?
stereotype, though.
Yeah.
Toy Story, Woody gets reconditioned.
Oh, yeah.
And the guy who does it looks just like Rafa Benitez.
Yeah.
So
Right,
maybe he's
yeah.
a toy fixer. There you go.
A toy fixer.
We are talking about fucks.
All right. Last
Arteta
one.
might be a crypto trader.
I mean,
Arteta is an
definitely-
action man, right?
He definitely
Yeah.
would be like trading
He's a
crypto
trader, yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And then also working in a leisure centre. No, he's not famous enough. I'm trying to think.
What about Jurgen Klopp? What about Jurgen Klopp? He's a
Jurgen
fun
Klopp.
one.
He
He's
would
hard
be
to-
head of global soccer for an energy drink.
That's fair.
It's quite hard with Jurgen Klopp,
Yeah.
isn't it?
He's
Maybe a tradesman?
teacher. He's got PE teacher energy as well, though. I guess they all kind of.
They
all
all,
do, yeah.
but I mean that's their job.
Yeah,
Their
glorified
job is
PE
like
teachers.
really, 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 really good PE teacher.
I think Klopp would be a tradesman of some sort.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
If you go architect or PE teacher, you
Yeah.
could pretty much cover every single
Yeah.
manager.
Well, it's a bit like the opening screen of Football Manager, isn't it? Or at least it was back in the day when they made games, where it was like you could either be a suit-wearing one or like a tracksuit one. Or
Yeah.
whatever.
Your point about Ange Postecoglou kind of doing high-level security.
Yeah.
I think Sean Dyche, obviously not in a Premier League job at the moment, but he...
low level security.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. But I'm getting it purely from his aesthetic of wearing a white shirt, sometimes short sleeved,
Yeah.
with no blazer,
Yeah.
which is very regional nightclub bouncer.
Or bus driver.
Well, if you think,
Or
you're,
bus
if you
driver,
think
yeah.
you're getting into this nightclub, you've got another thing coming.
That's what you'd say.
What's coming?
No trainers. No trainers allowed. Branded trainers are out.
I love it when people say you've got another thing coming. So I'm like, do you mean the opposite of what you've just said? It's the only other thing it could be. Or is it something completely abstract? Yeah. Well, there we go. That was it. Was that a good episode, Steve?
Yeah.
Yeah?
The bits I heard in between leaving the studio and, being quite hot.
After you left the first time, I did think, how hard would it be to get him to leave again? But you didn't. Well done. He stayed the whole time.
I mean, technically, I did go out a second time during
That's
the break
true,
for separation.
but it was by instruction, wasn't it? It was to fetch me a drink.
Yes.
Yeah. Right, okay. That's it then, is it? Yeah? Kaya Kainak, thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks to your dad for building the toilet in the Nando's.
Anytime.
John McKenzie,
Thanks, Joe.
thank you. And Ruben Pinder, thank you.
Thank you.
And if only there was someone else to thank. But I can't think of anyone. See you next week.
This will not be a kind edit for you.